go button. Okay, we are being recorded. If you have something you don't want recorded, then don't do it or say it. So, first question is, did everybody get the schedule of when everybody's gonna do their presentations? Everybody got it? Akil looks like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I just remember you asked me what day I.
Oh yeah, what day you do? Well, you are number one on the list.
You get to go first, my friend.
So, the 7th of August, or say October. And then I also sent out the 2 links to the two most recent classes. Again, most of you guys are all here for them, so you probably don't need to go back and watch them, but they're there if you want to watch them. And the only other thing is that so we realistically can only do about 3 of these talks per night, because if you do a 10-minute presentation and then we do 10 minutes of discussion about it, there's an hour if we do 3 people. So realistically, I'm not sure when we're going to do mine and Phil's critique of our sermons, but anyway, we'll work on that. Anybody got any problems, questions that we need to address? In that case, we will turn it over to Nathan, because he's got a lot of material.
Okay, I've also invited a couple of our AV team along. I've got Daniel and Nathaniel, and so I'm going to invite them to speak up whenever something comes up that triggers an antidotal, something to say about all of this. I'm not a professional speaker, so please show a little grace for all the food pies that I'm about to make while we do all of this.
If I could just ask you to speak up a little bit.
Speak up. The
Yeah.
first thing, first
That,
things
we
first.
we staged that,
Yeah, we staged
just as a.
Now, actually, the very first thing is one thing that I mentioned all through this. We've already committed one of our first errors. We were intending to do all of this in the old auditorium so that I could have a live mic with a live PA system and a real projector as opposed to a TV screen to demonstrate some of the things that you need to be aware of. Turns out that had already been promised to somebody else. So this is Plan B already. So please bear with me as we go with this. So this is how to use AV to do what you want to do. So what do you need AV for? It's to get your message across. Let me make sure this thing's working. There we go. Yeah.
See what AV stands for. Did you say what AV stands for?
AV is audio video.
Okay.
And audio video technology. So, what is good AV? So audio video technology, when it's doing its job right, a lot of times you're unaware it's even there. You're sitting back in your chair and you're listening to the speaker. He's got his charts going and you're through the service. But when it goes bad, then you realize it's there. But what you may not have also picked up on is not only did it not intrude on the lesson, but it's also enhancing it. The charts that you're presenting, you're not having to do it on whiteboards or felt boards anymore. We're in a little more different technology. If you're in a small room like this, how loud you talk can be sufficient to carry across the room. If you put us in the auditorium or in a gym or a bigger venue, then you're going to need something to boost your voice. You can't hold up a small little chart. You need something bigger. This is fine for a room this size. You put this in the gym, and it's not even good as a confidence monitor. So the kind of technology that you need depends on where you're at. So we'll probably talk a lot about what we've got here, and if you need to, we can talk about what they have in other places. Just the fact that you don't notice the AV doesn't mean it has no value. Like I said, it says, just go back to the points. The other thing is don't try to use the AV to just be awesome. You don't want to be screaming into the mics. You don't want to put so many tricks into your charts that people are going, gaga over that and they're losing the message. So be truthful about it. You wanna use AV to keep people focused on your message, and you try to take care of the balance of that use. Don't overuse it, and don't neglect it. It may have some capabilities that really will help you. So let's talk a little bit about visual aids. Pre-coordination, that was a cardinal rule that we violated earlier. So I was in there, I was setting up, only to find Siobhan was like, "What are you doing in here?" You know, so we're here now. So pre-coordinate what visual aids you need. Don't come in here with a whole bunch of stuff that you've not talked about, and then our team, we're scrambling on how to figure out how to set it up and incorporate it into what we're gonna do. If you've got something more, whatever you've got besides yourself, you need to let us know. If you've got charts, let us know. If you've got a video you wanna play, let us know. Audio files. If you're gonna have multiple speakers, if you're gonna have an interview kind of thing. Things that, you know, everybody's got their standard configuration wherever you go. Anytime you need to go beyond that, you need to coordinate with whoever's responsible. I'm gonna collectively call that the AV team. You need to clearly express those desires. The more complicated what you're trying to do, the more advanced notice you're probably gonna need to give the AV team or the techs. And then at some reasonable amount of time before you get to speak, try to make sure it's all there and it's all working and it's all doing what you think it's supposed to do. Otherwise, you're gonna have surprises. When it comes to PowerPoint presentations, it's really tempting to use different fonts, different sizes, italicize, underline. So some of these are pretty easy to read, but as you get down through here, it's a little bit harder for you to focus on, to read, especially if you use a font that is got so many curls and sweeps in it. At least if you don't have really good 20/20 vision, all that starts blurring together. So stick with the larger fonts if you can, larger sizes as you can, and try to use fonts that are not terribly elaborate.
So we don't get 1 or 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Eye chart.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
And they look bigger on your computer monitor than they do on the screen.
Right. I can easily read this bottom line on my screen, but I'm not sure someone who was in back of the auditorium, if we were out there, could read that at all.
Yeah, I can't read the bottom line.
So I actually had this up Sunday, maybe it was last Wednesday, in the old auditorium. And with my eyes, if I was standing back there about where the balcony starts, 16 was about as far as I could go.
So in maybe you want us to save questions, I don't know. In the gym, what is the lowest font level that you recommend?
Once again, it's font dependent, but if you use a nice, good, clean font, I think you could probably go with 18. Okay, I wouldn't go much lower than that. If you're going lower than 18, you're probably putting too much stuff on the chart. So that's another good cue. If you're having to go to the smaller fonts to get it all in, break that chart up into multiple charts.
The charts I put up when I spoke, smallest I went was 20. Just that it was more notes to myself. I put them up just for everybody to see, kind of because it's a little bit, and it was hard for people to read. 20 was too small. 28 or 30 is.
And as you get older, it gets harder. Okay. I've got mixed feelings about that. I'm now firmly in that category of my eyes aren't as good as they used to be 10 years ago. But to me, it needs to be, and if you need to, take your charts to wherever you're going and put them up. Stand at the back where the furthest audience is going to be. And if you can read it with 20/20 vision, I'd say you're good to go.
Older people need more light.
Older people can move closer to the front too. See, that's the other side of this. To me, there's two sides to that coin. Some people get anchored to their seat, and as their eyes go bad, it's like, I can't read this anymore. You need to make things bigger. No, you need to move closer. You know, Same thing when it comes to hearing. Sometimes you need to be closer to the speaker as opposed to way back in the back. So, colors. This was one of the things I really needed to be in the old auditorium for. When you're looking at your computer screen or your monitor, the colors can kind of pop out and they'd be nice and bright. For whatever reason, red, that's why I got this up here, tends to be problematic with some projector systems. When I had it in there, this was a good bit duller looking than what you're seeing now. And all of these were a little bit, but the red was particularly duller. There are some colors of red, when we project them in the old, in the gym there, they almost look black. I mean, you don't really realize that's red. So be really careful with red. And this was one of those things that'll vary from system to system. Your computer has its graphics output, it sends a signal, the projector's got its system, and then you're gonna get whatever colors you see. If you give someone a file and they run it on a different computer, their graphics card or their graphics system, they come out with a little different flavor and share it. So try not to use things where subtle shades are very important. Pictures, you can't help a whole lot. That's, you know, if you've got images, it really does help if you are looking at the system you plan on using. Sometimes you need to brighten an image or you need to play with the contrast to make it so people can actually see what you're trying to point out. So this is one of those, when it comes to images and colors, that can be very particular to where you're at. So things may look great at your home and on your laptop, but when you get here, it's like, that's not how I thought it was going to be. We have that problem all the time when people send us pictures of baptism. We generally always need to doctor those up to make it where you can see the people. So.
And another thing, don't put dark colors text on dark background, even if it's a different color. Just for that.
Start yellow on white.
Yeah, just because it'll do the same thing.
And just an aside with that, if you don't know, within PowerPoint and within a lot of presentation software, there's this thing called Glow. You can, what it does is it takes your text and it will put a contrasting color around it. And you can choose that color. If you've got black text, you can use white or yellow or green. So you can have your text and then it'll be shadowed around it with this contrasting color. And it really doesn't matter then what's going on in the background at all, because those contrasting colors will help people see the words. I've helped Tom and Selwyn with that, showed them that trick as well. So yeah, there's a way to get around that. Particularly if you've got an image that's got a lot of colors, you may not find a color on your text that just works all the way across there. So with Glow, you can do that. So do's and don'ts. Like I said, do choose fonts and characters with care. Embed your fonts. Don't presume that the font that you picked is going to be on the font or be on the computer that you're going to present with. We've had that happen, particularly with our music charts a lot of times. The font, we've actually imported special fonts because they were not there. We got tired of fixing hundreds of slides. So we undone those slots with those fonts and put them in the computer.
How do you embed them?
Well, there are it depends on your software. I'm not sure how to tell you to do it within PowerPoint. I think if you go out into the options, there is a way to embed. But like a lot of questions you're going to have that I don't have the answer to, I do have the basic answer. Google. Google how to embed fonts into PowerPoint, and it'll take you step by step.
What?
I will say, if you just open PowerPoint and select from that list of fonts, you're probably okay. But if you start like with Googling for templates and import, that's where you might run into problems. If you're just in basic PowerPoint, you're
Arial.
If you do it, if you're doing, was it dingbats and some of these fancy things, it may or it may, it's a flip of a coin. It may have it or it may not. So this gets back to be careful with your choice. If you're going to be using it in a lot of places, keep it simple. Transitions and animations. Transitions is what happens when we do our songs, where we swipe from left to right as you go from one page to the next. Animations would be where if I've got this popping up one line at a time at each click. And you can have them zoom in, twirl, you can do all kinds of things. I'm not sure what you're trying to do, if you're trying to impress the crowd with your prowess and PowerPoint. Just make sure they get the message in an effective way.
I probably stress the animation aspect more than anybody else.
Okay.
And they've always been able to handle everything I've done.
Okay. Don'ts. Like I said, don't go font, size, color, transition, animation, video, clips, whatever crazy. Make sure your message is the main thing, and we're not here to just entertain people. I already talked about red. Busy charts can also be a distraction. I don't want to name names, but Jamie's charts were at the end of the class, Assembly Sunday, were a good example of what a busy chart looks like, and using fonts that are way too small to read. So, let's see, software. I don't know, I think most of you are software savvy. You've got your computers, you might have a Mac, you might have a Windows, you might be running Linux, you might be using Android, Chromecast, whatever. Use what's comfortable to you, or what you've got available. But when it comes to the files that you create, that's where you want to be, try to use applications that are common across multiple platforms. I hate to be a trumpeter for Microsoft, but PowerPoint's available in just about everything. You can actually create your charts in a lot of things and then convert them to Adobe Acrobat PDF. And you can do presentations in PDF. Doesn't have a lot of the whiz-bang things that you would get in PowerPoint, but if you just want to show charts and you want to be sure that they're compatible just about on any computer system, PDF files work really well. So, and the way to get there, just as it shows, and I'm trying to drive this thing, I'm not sure. Okay.
It went on the screen.
Yeah, it went off the screen. I'm trying to figure, it's on my screen. Let me see if I can get it over there. So, okay, it thinks, okay, now I know where they are in relationship to. Use your save as or import or export. You can use things like that, even though if where you're trying to save them into something that is more universal. Not everybody's got the latest PowerPoint, for example. And so if you save something in a PPTX and someone's got a 2015 version of PowerPoint, might not work on it. So you need to be able to save down to a lower rev if you know where you're going. Files. If you've got a presentation, please send it to the AV team or as early as you can get it out. There's certain people who are here that have literally walked in with a flash drive right before the lesson, literally minutes before we start assembly, and say, here they are. And we're just hoping that it all works out. Some people are really good. They give us a lot of advance notice on that. Particularly if you've got a video or an audio file that you want to send to have played, it's hard. You can't email that stuff. They're too big. Once you get between 17 and 20 megabytes, anything bigger than that's pretty much not going to go by email. So you may have to send a link to whatever it is. I don't know what your video editing skills are. If you're only interested in a segment of a video, then send us the link and tell us when what you're looking for starts and when it ends, and we'll see what we can do to get a copy of that and edit everything else out, and that'll be all that we'll project. So we'll try to handle a lot of overhead for you. But if you can do that part on yourself, then that saves time on our side of it as well.
Do you, before you leave that software, so you guys go through a process where you convert it to something, right? you don't show it as PowerPoint.
Okay, I'll get to that. a
Oh,
little
you're
bit
gonna
later.
get it,
Yeah, I'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
So, okay. So let's kind of get away from the PowerPoint presentation side to the other part. This is what people see, now it's what people hear. I was hoping to demonstrate a lot of the things that can go wrong in a PA system in the old auditorium, but we're here. So you're just gonna have to pretend on some of this. So let's talk about what you need to do. You need to know what about the microphone you're working with. If it's a fixed microphone, or if it's something that's meant to be handheld, you know, I take this off. And do you tend to walk around with it and just work with one hand, or do you just want to work with that? If it's fixed, then you need to understand that if you're way back here, no one's going to hear it. And the poor AV guy, he's going to be pushing the gain up to where you're going to hear feedback, and he's still not going to get you. So stand right in front of the microphone really well. If you need to wear a microphone, I've got this. This is a body pack. Do not crumple up the antenna. That's how we get the signal from you to wherever the receiver is. So you can clip it in the back, you can put it in your pocket. If you want to put it in your shirt sleeve, fine, everybody will get to watch it, but keep the antenna visible. This is a good example of some of the things about how it works. It's got an on-off button. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. You hold that button down and it goes into mute. Now, underneath this tape is a bunch of other buttons that allow you to pick what frequency it's on and some other features. I've got tape over this because I'm tired of people playing with these buttons who have no business playing with these buttons. So just stick to the buttons that you've been shown to use. Okay. If it's a lapel mic, about this far down. Okay, you don't want it really up under here, and you don't want it down at your belly button.
Right where you should put,
yes.
a tight clip.
So about where a tie clip is. Well, some people wear them low, but back up here.
What's a
Depends on your style and what era you're from, okay?
Guys.
The people under
So-
40 are going, what's a time?
Yeah, the other thing, but one of the problems I've got with lapel mics is we'll get to it later, is it tends to pick up things that it shouldn't when it's right here. So if you've got a lapel, get it over here on the side. That actually works better, rather than directly under you. The other problem I've got with the lapel is it sounds pretty good when the AV guy has it dialed in like this, and you start talking because you're reading off of your Bible, you're now going to come in a lot clearer through the PA system. And so he's up there doing this like this all the time because you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this or you're doing that. So this does not move around with your head. It just moves around with you. It allows you to walk around wherever you want on the stage. The other thing, part of this that you have is, it's called a headset. Hooks over the ear. And this part, if you notice, it doesn't come out right in front of the mouth. Some do, some don't. I tried to get the ones that don't, because I don't want them right in front of your mouth. Because then it picks up, when you do things called plosives, you get pops and you get hisses and you get all kinds of stuff. So I want it over here on the side where all that bad stuff's going this way, and we're picking you up from the side. You don't want it right up next to your cheek, because that time as you're moving your mouth, especially if you've got a beard or if you forgot to shave. So you want to pin this in the back so that it doesn't drape around on you. Let's see. How to adjust a microphone. You know, just if it's too low, just quietly move it up before you start talking. You know, you need to adjust how a microphone that's on a stand, you probably want it pretty much, it's got what looks like a face. You pretty much want it facing you in a fairly close distance. You don't want to be trying to speak to a mic way over here, you want it to be here. And like I said, if I'm talking to you, I want to be on this side of the mic. I want the mic between me and you. If I'm talking over here, I want the mic between me and you. That way, my voice is carrying into the mic at all times. So if you've got a fixed mic, as you're working your way through the audience, pivot, just look at you want to have the mic between you and where you're going. How to speak into a microphone. I've got some etiquette things, we'll get to that later. Just get close, we want a good clean signal. That's all I'm gonna say at this point. Don't get too far back and don't try to swallow the mic. Just get a reasonable distance. If you're doing a handheld microphone, then be sure you're carrying it up here. Okay, because that's a good signal. If you're doing like this, no one's gonna hear you, okay? Microphones have different functions. These are actually, they got different kinds of heads on them. And you don't wanna know, you don't need to know all about all this. If you're in front of the mic, you're gonna always be in good shape. Some mics, like this one, are made to be pick up sound all around. They're called omnidirectional. They'll even pick up sound behind the mic fairly well. These have a little bit more of a problem if you have speakers that are facing you that are called monitors. Don't point this mic at that speaker. That's everybody's ears are gonna be hurting when you do that. So, but keep it to you. And if you want to shout, don't shout really into. You didn't sound like you're gonna shout real loud without really being loud. And that way you're not oversaturating the microphone. And if you want to whisper, you can sound like you're whispering and still be pretty loud. So you can get the effect of a shout and the effect of a whisper without really getting soft or loud. Microphones and PA systems, we don't respond really well to a lot of dynamics. So, but if you got it in your hand, you want to shout, then you can shout, okay? You can really get really loud when you've got the mic down here. And if you want to whisper, you can get right up in you know, and still be heard. So that's the advantage of a handheld mic, if you really want to kind of get dynamic with it. Do's and don'ts, here we go. I already talked about this. Some microphones need to be turned on and off, and they need to be in mute or not. I typically like to have microphones on, and you depend on the AV people to have you muted or not, or properly gained. We just have you on all the time. The microphones that we have right now that'll have body packs, they have a switch. It's either on or off. It doesn't even have a mute. Simpler was better. So, but you need to know, you need to ask. Some of them, like this one, you push it down, you get a green light, and it's on. And if you push it a little bit, you get a red light, which is muted. So you need to understand what it is, and if you don't know, ask. And we should be telling you too, that's the other thing. Treat these things like they're expensive pieces of equipment. This is an SM58, 57. I think these go for about $80 to $100 a piece. The nice Sennheisers, about $1,200 a piece. This little guy, $300.
No, it's not worth it.
These you can get for about 20. But still, we don't schedule for people throwing mics around or dropping mics or whatever, or tearing up mics into our budget. So try to treat it nice.
So, no.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, if you're gonna do that dramatic thing, you better hope that's not my mic. I'll be coming after you, yeah. So when you come up, don't do this, okay? Just to see if it's working. If you want to make eye contact with the AV staff, they will do this, which says you ought to be ready to go. Drop, bang on the mic, or throw the mic. So you see people do different things for dramatic effects. If you want to bring your own mic in and do all that stuff to it, go right ahead.
So get ready to write a check.
Blow on the
Exactly.
mic.
And the other thing is, don't make physical contact with it. It's a hygiene issue. It's also an issue if you get enough moisture into these things, they don't like it. So just don't put your lips on the mic. I've already talked about, don't scream into the mic because you oversaturate it. It starts clipping and distorting, it sounds bad. So, enough said, move on to the next one. Some things that you might hear while you're standing up there talking. Are we past our time?
No,
Okay.
I'm actually.
Okay. Feedback, that's when you hear that ringing or squealing noise or whatever. You know, you got the audio guy, tech back there in the back, he's frantically trying to make some adjustments. If you've pointed the mic at the monitor, it's your fault, okay? If you're standing back here and he's desperately trying to pick you up, it's your fault. Stand up to the mic and talk. This is probably my number one problem with the people who do communion, because it's someone different all the time. And to tell them to stand up and talking to the mic it's hard for them. You know, and they've got other things, because they're not a professional. They're worried about what they're saying. They're not necessarily worried about how close to the mic they are. But try to get close to the mic. That really solves a lot of problems if you'll do that. Not facing the mic. Yeah, if this is the mic and I'm talking to you, then the audio engineer has no signal to work with at that point. So like I said, always get the mic between you and where you're facing. I already talked about that last one. Okay. Clipping. That's where if you've screamed into the mic, you've given it too much signal, and so it can no longer faithfully reproduce the signal. That means you're too loud. Either get away from the mic if you want to stay loud, or lower your voice. Plosives. That's that stuff, that's when you hear pops, or S's, or T's. Anything that comes out of your mouth with a lot of force. If you're hearing those, particularly if you've got a lapel on or a headset on, there's not really a whole lot we can do at our end. We can try to EQ, that's where you adjust what frequencies are being sent out to the speakers. We can try to EQ some of that out. But mostly what we need is, like I said, with the lapel, if it's right here and it's going, and you're hearing that thump, thump, thump out on the PA, that's where if you can move it off to the side, it really helps a lot. Huh?
Or down.
Or further down, you might need to, yeah. To get it to where your plosives are not striking it directly. If you've got a headset and you're getting that, then adjust it a little bit further away, a little higher, a little lower. Just move it to where you're not hitting it directly with your voice like that. So, because there's not a lot we can do besides get up on the stage and move it for you, and you don't want to do that. You don't want us to do that. There are other things. You know, if I've got this and I've tried to hide it, I've actually got it kind of folded underneath the lapel. And so as I move my arms around, you hear, well, you need to adjust the mic where it's not like that. Some mics, if you've got a podium mic mounted straight on the podium, every time you turn your page, your Bible or whatever, you'll hear whoosh, whoosh. Or every time you tap on the podium, it'll come in because it's coming through the wood, through the stand, straight to the mic. Good mic stands have a way to try to isolate that. You're not always going to be where that's a benefit. In our case, we had one Sunday not too long ago where we were getting that, where you could tell when people were walking across the stage, you could hear the steps, and you could also hear it. It turned out the mic stand was making physical contact with the table, which was on the floor. All we had to do, it was something that was a learning experience, I had to make sure that from that point forward, you always make sure we've got isolation, and that eliminates a lot of it. So you may have to correct that yourself. I think there was one time not too long ago where Rodney picked up on that, and he literally moved the mic and fixed it for us. So, and this kind of gets to what you were talking about when the workflow there, Steve. We have here at Central, we have two teams. I said of 3 people, I'm gonna call it at least 4. I'm going to include the streaming people. We have a person who operates our streaming computer. We have a person who operates the computers that do the presentation. and we have a person who does the AV, and we keep a spare in case one of us has to go to the bathroom, or if we have to send someone down to replace batteries or to work something in real time. So that's, and we have two teams, or tend to work up through quarters, 3/4 on, 3/4 off. Cause I personally think we ought to have, everybody should have their chance to have a break and go to a class. So that's kinda how we do that. Division of labor, I kinda talked about that. We've got a person who's on the streaming and, the presentation and the mixer part and the audio. Workflow, I've kinda hinted on that. Try to get your charts, if you've got charts, in early. If not, at least tell us that whether you've got charts or not. Some people don't have charts, and we've not gotten charts, and we're anxious come Sunday morning and says, no, I don't have any charts. Okay, but if you're not gonna have us charts, let us know. If you're gonna have charts, give them to us as soon as we can, because we can try to run through them. Sometimes they get problematic. But there's other things that are happening behind the scenes. Let me see, this is where I was wanting to break into something. There are several people that want to, that kind of help organize each week. And on Fridays, we have this thing that gets sent out. It's called the Order of the Assembly. You notice this one's got the AV team, Michael Nance, Ed Melindigo, Tom Reynolds, Jamie, Alex, and Brian, John, and the rest of the elders. The elders get these because they need to know what's going on. We get it because we're part of the loop. John gets it because he's the one that sends it out and wants a copy. Everybody else are people who are involved in that service that have a significant part. So this is how this comes out Friday, but we've talked about all of this ahead of time. And so you get in here and, okay, it brings it up right there, okay. So, this is what John sends out, and we've kind of worked all this out ahead of time. We have our standard order of service. We have announcements, we have a song fest, we have collection, scripture reading, lesson, invitation, communion, announcements, post announcements, or prayer requests, maybe a closing song. This puts all of that in there. So this is the order. We think we're going to do that. So sometimes we get late changes. Things happen. But and that order is a set like this unless we've got something special going on. Like when we have the kids things, we move communion up to the front. There are other times, and sometimes the song leader's got something different going on and he wants things done different, or sometimes you, the speaker, want to do things different. This is where you need to communicate early so that we can make sure everybody's kind of clued in on that. So that's part of the workflow. I can get rid of that now. So the song leaders have to get their stuff in by 9 o'clock Thursday morning. So Pat's already got all the material. She generally assembles a lot of the charts. We use a program called Proclaim. That program has different sections within it. It has a pre-assembly charts which rotate. We can set how fast it goes through charts. It even allows you to put music in the background. And we start that up at 10 o'clock. We go on the air. It has another part that's called the assembly. We set that at 10:15, and we have a little piece in between it. It's a countdown clock. The computer's watching the clock. Once we get it started, when we hit 10:12, it transitions to that countdown. And then it transitions into the main assembly part of the software at 10:15. That's something that we can set up those times on. So that all kind of happens automatically. After that, we're going through the announcement charts, songs, and so on. So that's how that software Proclaim. If you go somewhere else, they may use something called ProPresenter. That's probably the biggest, best of all these kind of services. What's nice about that software is it's called concurrent software. Everybody can work on it at the same time. So the song leader could be working on it, Pat could be working on it, whoever's talking could be working on it. You could all be doing your part and get it all wrapped up. Rodney likes to do his charts directly. Other people send their charts in and we incorporate them, like Daniel does a lot of that work. So it depends on what we would do. When we use PowerPoint, you can import those slides directly into Proclaim, or you can, what we do is we actually hand off control where it starts an instance of PowerPoint and runs it. That way, if you've got any animations or transitions, we don't have to worry about them not being faithfully imported into the Proclaim. So, that's the way we tend to work with that. Things we're not responsible for. I had a good idea about what that is back when I put that in there, and I've kind of forgotten it since then. So, hey, if you're gonna walk in with some goldfish, that's on you. Okay? I'll put that out there. Yeah, I don't know, so, yeah, we've had goldfish. If you've got stuff, as long as you can, if there's a bag of stuff that you wanna bring in, fine. You might wanna coordinate with us where you're gonna put it before you get it out, so we can kinda make sure that it's not gonna be in the way of something else.
Nathan, are you responsible for bringing water down to the speaker when you?
No, we're not, we're not. No, that would be nice if, if you think you're gonna need water, I suggest you bring it yourself. But someone, if you cough enough, someone will have mercy on you, and we'll take care of that. Where we get our marching orders from, that's John here. So he's kind of the one that orchestrates all of that. John gets his marching orders from the Assembly Committee. That's where we've kind of, that's where we go from week to week, a month to month, and do forward planning. So I don't know if there's other things that you think you need to know about how Central flows. If you go somewhere else, they may have a whole different set of rules on all this. Okay, final thoughts, and we're getting close. AV has a purpose. It's to help you get your message across. Please use the capabilities that you know and to amplify your message. If you're gonna try something different, I suggest you just try to pick one or two things at a time. Don't try to take on all the whiz-bang capabilities on your first shot out or your second shot out. You're gonna find yourself struggling to manage all that. Just stick with what you do, and just add one thing at a time as you speak more and more, and there's opportunity. If it doesn't help, leave it out. I had 47 slides here. We're up to slide 15. Steve kind of took an axe to it, and I'm glad he did, or we'd probably be talking a lot longer. Leave it out. KISS. Keep it simple. Stupid. So, not short, but keep it simple. We know when things are working great, okay? We can also tell when it's not, okay? So you don't have to point it out to us and whoever's seeing the stream or to the audience. You don't have to get snarky about it. We're trying to do the best we can to get dug out of whatever the problem is. So if you need to, if it's really bad, just pause and give us a chance to get through the issue, and then we'll give you that thumbs up when it's time to start again. If you want to show some grace and some humor, that's fine. If you want to do a song and dance in front of everybody while we're working on something, fine. Have a plan B. Like I said, I was planning on being in a completely different room before I got here. So this was my plan B. But the other thing is, we've had quite a number of services. We're right in the middle of it and the power goes off. So if all of your charts, or if you're depending on the confidence monitor to get through it, now you're kind of left hanging. Have some paper, or have your own battery powered tablet or whatever that's going through that can help you get through it. Be prepared because things happen.
There's a thing called squirrels, and they love to get in the power lines, and several of them have taken out transformers, and over time. Over the years I've been here, at least 3 times.
We used
Some
to
big
have
fried squirrel.
Selected school.
Yeah, exactly.
We used to have squirrels that got into the attic in the teen house And when we had our fiber optic going through there, and they would gnaw through it on a regular basis. So we'd come in here on Sunday and not have access to the internet. That kinda interesting. We now have metal clad over that, so we spent a lot of money to have fiber that is pretty much indestructible at this point. So we'll see how long that takes the squirrels to eat to it. But, yeah, we spent good money to fix that problem this last time. Get with us early, especially if you need something outside of the usual. We'll work under pressure, we do it all the time, but we really work a whole lot better if you've given us some advance notice. Teamwork makes the dream work. We're your team. We want you to succeed, believe me. It's not our job to set you up for failure. We all want you to succeed. Your purpose is to spread the gospel. Let us give you an assist. So that's all I had at this point. I have now gotten off to something else. There we go. Questions?
So when do you want the slides?
If you've got them the week of, okay, if you can get them to us Monday, then that gives us all that time. You know, we're not paid staff. You know, when we do this, it's at home, when the kids are in bed, and we've got, so if you give us more opportunities to do that early, we love it. So if you want to actually try to work with Proclaim, we have to set up an account for you. We have to send you a link, let you download the stuff. We have to get you set in where it recognizes that you're part of the central licensing. If you want to do that, fine. Let us show you how to use it. Don't work on last week's file. We can make a new one and start from there. But yeah, I don't care to get them a month ahead of time, so we'll forget about them. But the week, starting with the Monday would be great, if you've already got them. The latest, once you get to Friday, you're already kind of getting on, we like weekends too. So if you can get them to us Thursday, that would be great. Unfortunately, a lot of things happen on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and that's just the way it goes. That's part of the volunteer process, and I know. So if you need to work on them, go right ahead. Just, if you're gonna be really late, give us a heads up on that too. If you say, hey, everything, I've suddenly changed directions and I gotta work on tonight, but I'll have them ready for you or in your inbox in the morning, by 8 o'clock. Because we need some time to incorporate that here. How complicated what you're doing is depends on what the latest you can get it in. If it's just a PowerPoint, 8 o'clock's fine. And we've got room to work with that.
8 o'clock,
AM, Sunday morning.
so that's the latest.
That's, I don't want to abuse that, really. We don't like it. We really like to get them on a Friday. By the time I get home from work Friday, I like to have that stuff sitting in the inbox.
Wednesday, Thursday, something like that.
Yes, yeah.
Give you a little bit of, look at it and decide. if you
And
wanna do
the
it.
other thing is, you want to get your chart settled to where, as you're working through it these last couple of days, you're not modifying them, you're just working on what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So you really want to get your presentation kind of wrapped up at that point as well.
Will you guys be supporting the presentations that this class does in August?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've got some planned problems for you. No, I'm just.
That would actually be great.
Welcome to bring it around, that way we can have the live demonstration.
We'll probably have enough unplanned problems as it is. So yeah, we'll work through some of these issues I've talked about in real time.
Dad and I were talking about getting cardboard cutout standees just to fill up all the pews, make it feel like it's a bigger crowd than that is.
Okay.
We're probably not gonna
We could
do
play
it. We were
some.
joking about doing
You
it.
know, we
Yeah,
are.
we could get the audio where you've got claps and laughter and
Crying
boos
children
and children, whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're going to send us an email, wow, I've got all kinds of things happening here that I had no idea. There you go. Whoop, back up.
And he's dropping communion tray.
It's funny, I hit, it's trying to do a link. I know what's happening. Okay, it's trying to access that website down there. this is central, this is the phone number if you need to call the office. This is our email address. So if you wanna send something to us directly, that email address sends, distributes things to me, to Daniel, to Ed Ditto, to Nathaniel, and eventually it's gonna distribute it to some other people. Our team comes and goes, so I keep trying to keep it updated to where it sends out to the team members as appropriate. So this is you're going for, if you send it to me and I'm out of town, guess what? It's just gonna sit in my inbox. So send it to here. If you're not sure of that, send it to John. Yeah.
And on that note, we are looking for volunteers if you wanna join the AV.
Yeah, that's actually one of my charts that Steve cut out. It's a shameless plug for volunteers. If you're really interested but you don't want to volunteer, feel free to come by one Sunday, and we'll show you the ropes while you're up there, and we'll give you a peek behind the curtain there, so to speak. Any other questions? We still got a few minutes. Let's just move on.
You wanna show the weirdness of that clicker?
Oh, I meant to demonstrate this, yes. Some clicker, these are all mine. This kind of represents a progression through time for me. Actually, my first presentation pointer was an extendable,
Yeah.
looks like an antenna pointer, that you literally,
Right to them, yeah.
waved it around. The second thing I got was, actually it was a red one, but then the third one I got was this green one. And as you notice, there can be hazards with green or red ones that can shine and bounce. If you're pointing a red laser at something that's glass, it generally disappears.
Mhm.
So green is a much better color to see, but you need to be careful how it's bouncing. The other thing is, as I've seen as presenters, they start pointing over here, and the next thing they're doing, they're waving, they're talking and they're waving this laser around, and I'm keeping it high on purpose, but they're hitting the audience. And they're not always good for the eye, so. The next thing I got was this, it's got a dongle that you plug into the computer. It's got a lot of functions. It also has, it's got be on. It has its own green laser. You can play and pause if you've got videos. It's got forward, advance, blank. It's got a lot of good things. Even got a built-in timer so that you can see how long you're going. This was a pretty fancy one for its day. It's got pretty good range. That dongle's good for about 100 feet. This is like what we have currently in the gym. This is my personal one. I generally buy these things, and if they work good for me, then Central gets them, gets a copy of it. Got on-off switch. The first one we had, everybody couldn't tell whether it's on or off because the print is really dim. And so we've started to where if it's up there, we've got it turned on. So don't try to turn it on and off. Leave that side switch alone. We wore out the first one. That was why it got where it wasn't always working. You turn it on, it wouldn't necessarily be on. So it's got forward, advance, blank, and it also has what's called a virtual laser. And I've got this one hooked up, so that's what this one has. What's good about a virtual laser? Make sure that it's.
It was on there, yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah, there it is. Is if you've got 3 screens, a confidence monitor, then the virtual laser shows up on all of those at the same time. Whereas if you've got a physical laser, you can only point at one at a time. And you gotta hope everybody can see it. So the virtual pointers are really nice. Generally what happens is when you press it, it should come up close to the center of the screen, and as you move your hand, it moves. So they're pretty good control. This one has a Bluetooth that's hooked up with my laptop. It also has a dongle that's good for about 120 feet if you need to go longer distance. Bluetooth is good for about 30 feet. So if you're trying to do anything with Bluetooth over long distances, forget it. You gotta find something else.
Now because it has that virtual laser, there's a piece of software on the computer that has to boot when you hit it. So if you click it and it's not clicking, you give it just a second. Let it boot.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a delay the first time you do it. Same with this one. This one tends to let you know when you finally get synced it actually rumbles. You know, you may have heard it a few times already, but it sort of lets you know that it's now connected. And it's only got 3 buttons, forward, backwards, and laser, but they can be redefined. The software allows me to do different things with these. I can also change what the pointer looks like within the software. So they come with pluses and minuses. This one I would love for us to be using at Central, but it is built more specifically for PowerPoint. And when we go from Proclaim to PowerPoint, the focus that this thing is associated with gets lost. And so it quits working on us. So we're sticking with this one because that's what works. That's our trusty one. Anything else, you guys?
The only thing with the lapels, like, I tend to be more soft-spoken, so I would want to put this thing up a little higher. But some people are a little louder, like Tom was last week. I don't know if you heard how loud he was. He's going to come a little lower. So just things like that, just to know your limits.
And a lot of speakers, how they start off is not how they're doing 2 or 3 minutes into their lesson. Tom's a great example of that. He starts kind of calm, and then he gets wound up, gets animated, and so we're continually backing him down on his volume there because of that.
Also, if you're wearing a lapel, don't pump your chest. I don't wanna call any names, but Jamie did that 3 times during a sermon once. And we have no protection against that.
So,
Do y'all have one of the earpieces here? The head?
one of these? Well, I mean, other than this one right here?
I mean, like, is that Central's?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
this is Central's.
I don't think we
Okay.
need to connect with the,
This is mine. This is all Central stuff. So, whether you choose to use a headset versus a lapel, that's kind of a personal choice. Daniel, we have traumatized with one of our systems that we no longer use, Daniel. He kept trying to use it. It was a really fancy state-of-the-art that uses encryption and digital signaling, and it bounces between frequencies as needed to get back to our system. Turns out when it's bouncing between frequencies, they say you can't notice it. Guess what? We can notice it, okay?
They hacked my bank account too, so.
So I'm taking that expensive system and it's now collecting dust, and we've got a cheaper system that's got fixed frequencies and it's not nearly as elaborate, more reliable. Yeah, so
I like that style the best, the headset.
the headset, okay.
we need to get some for those microphones.
You've got a beard. Make sure it's away from your beard.
Solid guy right there.
Yeah. Otherwise, as you're moving your jaw, you're probably going to. A lot of times, we don't have them here, but a lot of times these have windscreens on them. That can kind of help with the plosives, but it can't overcome, if you're right in there into it, you can't. And if you've ever looked at where voice actors are doing things, or people who do podcasts or whatever, there's this big screen between them and the microphone, and that's part of what that's for. We don't do that because visually it's not very appealing. So, let's see, we already talked about that. Okay, we've got a few minutes. Well, it's about time. AV, you got multiple kinds of learning that people learn. Okay, you got visual spatial learners. Our lighting, our presentation, video boards, that's all for the visual learner. Okay, auditory, people who listen with their ears. That's what the PA system does for you, so it helps with that. There are people who learn by reading. That's what your presentation helps with. Then there's the people who have to do things well. Unless you've got something that you want people to fill out, like Tom used to do a lot, that's the way to reach those kind of people. That doesn't have a whole lot to do with AV. Okay, here you go. I wanted to get to this forward line.
How many times do I have to kill the same stinking panda? Shen! A panda stands between you and your...
Now you can't hear it. Why?
What? Prepare yourself for a hot...
Okay, that was just to try to demonstrate a little bit of what proper AV would help with. Because he was too far away, and if you've got your props, and you don't know, if you haven't worked all that out ahead of time, then it didn't always come out like you want. Jesus used AV, I reckon that's my last chart, and we'll leave. The boat on the water, the crowd was pressing into him. And so what did he do? He talked to a person there, and they got on the boat, and they got out off the water, where he could now, more people was in front of him. Water's a really good reflector of sound. So realistically, he was using acoustic properties and physics to be heard by more people. Sermon on the Mount, as the crowds were coming around, he gets up on the mountain so that he's up over them, and so that he could speak and be seen and be heard. So it might not involve electrons, but you need to be cognizant of the fact that you need to be seen and heard. And we do a lot of that same stuff now with a stage, the audio system, and our video presentation system. And we'll leave it at that. You're out of time.
I don't know where my dad went, so I guess I'll dismiss you guys. Thanks for coming. Same time next week. I think Dad walked off with the schedule, so I don't know what's happening next week. I think it's somebody presenting next week, or is that the week after?
7th is the first
Right.
time we present, so.
Okay, well, I'm sure he'll send out an email or something, and this video will be available for those of you who are going to do some audio visual stuff. Everybody should be using the mics, but not everybody is going to use PowerPoint, so if you need things like that, could you make available your slides so that people can review
I
them?
can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I guess you guys are dismissed.
Thanks.
If you have a preference as to what kind of mic you want to use, I need to know that. Actually, in the old auditorium, we have this, we have the equivalent of this, and that's actually the little panel from the old auditorium with a different working headset, so we can work with that. Okay.